It's time for Just the Guys, where our mission here is to bring back shame. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, share this stream. I want to get you guys' first off, just instant reaction because Jussie Smollett came up in the media this week. If you remember Juicy Smollett, he was the one that claimed that he got jumped in Chicago, saying with someone saying it's MAGA country. Shout out to Kofi19, who follows us on Instagram, who shared this clip.
Why you always lying? Oh my God.
The fact of the matter is that I was walking down the street and I got jumped. Didn't have anything to do with setting that shit up because I'm a grown-ass man and have no reason to do no corny bullshit like that. If I was going to set up some bullshit to look for attention, I would look like a hero. I wouldn't look like a victim.
If I was going to set up some bullshit to look for attention, I would look like a hero. I wouldn't look like a victim.
There's just a couple of points that I wanted to make really quick. I was bruised, but my ribs were not cracked. They were not broken. I went to the doctor immediately. Frank Gatson drove me. I was not hospitalized. Both my doctors in LA and Chicago cleared me to perform, but said to take care, obviously. And above all, I fought back.
Did you ever know that you're my hero?
From what I understand about the entertainment industry, very few people are actually making money, at it. So it probably is a good time for Jussie to just go get himself a career outside of that realm. It's over. I think he looks at this as some type of an attempt at a comeback. Nobody, and you know the shame of it. He was in a movie. We watched a movie. It was a sci-fi movie. I think it was one of the Alien franchise movies. He was pretty decent, but this was some weird ass play for attention, thinking he could parlay that into maybe more roles. Dude, it's just give it up, move on. It's not even like we have stars like that today. Like, the Tom Cruise is out there for 40 years. Right. Jussie Smollett was never going to be that anyway. Your 15 minutes has come and gone, dude. Just move on.
I'm going to be honest with you, man. I truly believe that half black people are, not in general, but generally half black people or mixed race people have been diabolical to the absolute destruction of the black race, to be completely honest with you, man.
Do you think it's intentional or?
It's no, actually not. No, actually not. I believe that these people have an identity crisis, and that identity crisis causes a lot of mental instability. It causes a lot of identity instability, and it causes these people to, at many cost, subterfuge blacks. The woman on The View, what's that woman's name? The Puerto Rican woman who pretends to be black. The woman on The View. Right. The woman on The View is one of them. She's a perfect example. These people have been a problem for I know there's a lot of this is content, but I've noticed this in my real life. A lot of mixed people, they will stir up a lot of race propaganda because they are not accepted by whites, and they want to live the actual black experience. That they want to live the black experience from the perspective of what they've been taught and what they've heard about. I feel really sorry for these people, man. But I think the more information, the more exposure, and the more race hoaxes we see, the better, because we can really see these people in real time for what they're doing.
I mean, but how many people are really paying attention to that? Because I mean, you seen Bubba Wallace and the whole noose thing. You seen, I think, even LeBron James and the fake was the swastika, or I don't know, something they posted
at his home.
How many? Yeah, but how? Because all of these were hoaxes, but it still seems there's not enough racism.
Well, again, man, racism is big business, man, and I keep saying it over and over, man. It's a fire sale. Here goes LeBron. LeBron, you live in a $100 million mansion in the Palisades, wherever he lives at. LeBron, there's a reason why you live there. You don't want to live around black people, man.
Right. People
are hip to this stuff now. We know goddamn well, LeBron. Nobody was at LeBron's home when this happened. Yeah, okay, LeBron. Yeah, right. No security, no landscapers. Nobody was at your home, LeBron. Like, you're like a regular 9-to-5er. Stop it. And I think a lot of people are getting smarter and hip to these things, man. And that's what is, in my opinion, what is really making, in my opinion, our society really see these people for who they are and what they do. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but it's just me.
Man, I had that kind of same opinion though about social media. Like I thought at one point I thought social media will allow for more ideas to be delivered, but then allow for the opportunity for truth to really be discovered. And I think the opposite has really happened when it comes down to it. It's like it's just more, especially with algorithms, it's more of what you want to see and more of, confirmation bias of what you want to hear. So even though these things are happening, because here's really what happens. You'll see the headline of something and you'll never see the retraction. So, so CT, I mean, I guess I'm questioning, how is it that more people are hip to it now? Because it seems like still, even today, people are just kind of digging deeper into their bubble.
Well, again, I mean, more people are into it because you have more access to information. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have a lot more people who are gonna believe it, but you're gonna have a lot of people who are gonna be like me. You know, Jesse Smollett, they're gonna start looking at his wife, they're gonna start looking at where he lives at, they're gonna start looking at everything that this man does, and then they're gonna say this man is a bullshitter. I mean, this is not like the 1990s or the 80s, 70s, where you didn't really have access to a lot of information. Back then, the internet didn't really exist the way that it does now. But now we can really see, bro, if white people really were that bad, I don't even know who he's married to. I'm willing to bet it's a damn near white woman.
I believe he's gay.
Is he gay?
Yeah.
Okay, well, his boyfriend's a white man. I'm almost willing. Okay, well, it's a white man. I'm almost willing to believe it. So it's like when he tries to sell this race stuff now, we can see you. We can see you. And it's the same thing with Al Sharpton. Right. You know, I'm bringing him up. Al Sharpton. Back in the day, we didn't know where Al Sharpton lived at. Maybe guys from New York, Gimpy, you know, you guys knew where he lived at. I never knew where Al Sharpton lived at in the 90s. You know, I knew he lived in New York, but I didn't know exactly where. Now I can look at the trifling little storefront he has. I know where he lives at. Al Sharpton is not what he says he is, man. You know, he likes white society. So it's just all selling stuff.
You can clearly see he's acting though. But Gimpy, I wanted to see if you noticed, like when he was up there on the stage, Juicy Smollett.
He has a real black guy as a boyfriend. Yikes! I didn't know. I just know. Jesus Christ! I was wrong.
And we only know this because he paraded him around during the
I had no idea.
This is MAGA country story.
Gimpy, did you notice like he was reading off a list of the points that he wanted to make on stage?
Because before he went out on stage, he said, I got to write down to make sure I say exactly what I need to say and don't forget. And you guys are all sitting here trying to assign reason to a bunch of emotional children. You're sitting here talking about, I'm sorry, they're looking at his wife, is this, where he lives? No, they're looking at it's 3 a.m. in a blizzard in Chicago in the middle of February, dude. No one believes you got jumped because no criminals are out. The criminals know they're not out in that weather. And you're not famous enough, Juicy, that they're coming for you. Nothing personal. You guys are very smart men. I have a lot of respect for you, but they're not smart. I don't have respect for them. So disrespectfully, stop giving toasters credit where there is none. These people are automaton. Like they're literally functioning kitchen appliances.
Toasters, aka toasters.
Yes, they're toasters, but people don't seem to understand why I say that. It's because they're literally no better than your kitchen appliance. They do something that's useful when it breaks. Some people get mad, smash them into a million pieces, throw them away. Some people just look at it and throw it away. Either way, it just gets thrown away and replaced.
Let's go back and just look at the ridiculousness of the claim. So basically, 2 white cats were running around Chicago
in the blackest neighborhood
in a polar vortex in Chicago.
Yeah.
Wearing MAGA paraphernalia, saying that Chicago is MAGA country.
Yes.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier. Logic, how we had tough times and we had to eat things we weren't necessarily find appetizing. As I ate my tuna fish, you know what I never craved? A tuna salad from Subway. Okay. I didn't. I went, like I said, I went to KFC, not Subway. Okay, I probably could have saved some money, right? You're making at least 10 grand an episode on Empire. And by the way, the neo-Nazi Trump supporters out in the polar vortex, somehow they watch Empire.
Yeah.
Right.
And they know who he is.
A TV actor in the middle of a polar vortex. Like, this is what I'm saying. It's like no one had to.
And it just happened to bump into him. And they put a noose around his neck.
Pour gasoline on him.
And he wears the noose
to the police
back
station.
Home.
Like a necktie.
Yeah.
It's a fashion statement.
I gotta have proof.
Right.
Like, there's no deep investigation into this. The dude knew which way the camera was pointing, and then it turns out that it had moved. They had moved it, that it points a different way. And he gave himself away. That's what they caught him on, by the way. The police tell everybody how they caught him. And it's that he started pointing at a camera, and they're like, dude, that camera doesn't point where you think it points. Why are you so... This camera looks at something else, and that's what the cops use to unravel his story. I don't disagree with what CT said, that it's all shill and it's a big business and it's a fire sale. All that stuff is true, but at the end of the day, this guy, he hates Trump. That's what TDS does.
Yeah, it drove him crazy.
It's like, I've never seen a human have such power on people. He just has to get up every day, and people just have psychotic breaks.
I cannot figure out why Trump has not said I'm a proponent for oxygen. I can't figure out why he has not
breathing.
yet.
You should say, I love oxygen. It's great. It's the best oxygen ever. The oxygen I breathe is great. In fact, I heard that all oxygen counts as the same oxygen. So what I breathe, all of America breathes.
Hey,
And
come
then all of a
from
sudden,
CJ.
you drop dead holding their breath.
So guys, I need you guys to help us out and do that, right? Because we need to get
Right.
that to Trump somehow. Trump, you need to come out and say,
I love air.
I love oxygen.
Right. And
Or
look,
I
come from
endorse
CJ.
oxygen. Gippy, I don't know if you saw this week, but part of Mamdani's transition team is a transitioned rabbi.
I disown this person before we even do anything. I publicly disavow this person, mostly because it's an insane person.
Is there anything about rabbis being trans?
Probably a prohibition. I'm not even a Jewish scholar, and I think that's
Dude, you're not allowed to put a
prohibited.
tattoo on your body because you're not allowed to change your body that way. I would imagine, scientifically changing your gender. But this person's a crazy person. All of them are crazy people. You have a dissociative personality disorder. Like, that's what it's classified as until they all cowered it out and caved to the mafia, the alphabet mafia. They're no different than a person who thinks they're Abraham Lincoln or how Zach thinks he's a prophet of God.
Now, do you think he's doing that to win over Jewish New Yorkers or show that he's not anti-Jew?
Dude, this is just more of the Bolsheviks, dude. My people are their own worst enemy. You're just looking at another version of Bolshevik Jews, ultra progressive left, who think that you have to allow for everything. I'm sorry, man. They're just they're disgraces to themselves. It has nothing to do with any other. They're running around spreading their mental illness with joy.
I thought that was wild, though, man. To me, that is crazy. How it's like
It's
blasphemous, man. It's like making a mockery of everything now.
That's why
Like,
he's doing it. That's why he's doing it. Look, if
And-
you look at his cabinet as he puts it together, it's a rogues gallery of bullshit.
Dude, it's not even that. It's this whole progressive movement is this. It's break the system. So it has to be made up of people who will never fit in the system. And they do it to them. Like the method of getting ahead on that side is to be how much you don't fit in the current system. That's what gets you prestige in that movement.
I was fooled by those words too. For years, without even realizing it, I was helping the bad guys. Yeah, the same global conglomerates that bankroll chaos, push woke nonsense, and fund movements that despise God, family, and freedom. 97% of what we buy, toothpaste, dish soap, vitamins, even snacks, is owned by the same handful of multinational corporations. They don't share our values, they exploit them. Most of their stuff is made overseas, laced with toxins, and sold back to us under the label of progress. That's not capitalism, that's communist goal number 32. Centralized control over culture, welfare, and daily life. They already control education. They control the media. And now they want your shopping cart. If we keep buying their products, we're handing them the keys. Shame isn't the problem. Apathy is. Shame is what snaps you out of it. It's what makes a man take responsibility again. That's why I stopped feeding the machine. I switched my home to family-owned, American-made, non-toxic products that actually care about the people they serve. And now you can too. Go to switchwithlogic.com and take your dollars back from the system that's poisoning our homes and our freedom. Because shame should lead to change. And this one feels good. Tyrone, you had talked about previously about you're glad that you don't have to date in modern day era.
Yes.
Now,
yes,
all of us on this show are married, even Reason's married as well. But this kind of idea of, I don't know, it seemed like the role of women changed like over the years and over the decades, and it seems like it was by design. So I want to play a clip from 1968 of Black women. There was this kind of theme of Black women pushing against their Black spouses, and then I'm gonna play a clip from 2025 to kind of compare to see what's different, what's same, and really how this has played out.
The reporter for the Chicago Daily Defender, and as a Black woman married to a Black man, I become deeply aware of the effects of this new Black revolution on the relationship between Black man and Black woman. I see it among my own friends, and I also see it in my home. But the most revealing and the most vocal statements about what the new Black man expects from the new Black woman came when I met with a group of young unmarried friends one Saturday afternoon.
I think that what's happening in America as far as Black men, Black women is concerned is that there's a revolution within a revolution. We are fighting our own woman. Our woman will not allow us to emerge as Black men. No. But our black women, who has been put in this role of aiding white America, white structure, and castrating the black male, has continued doing this. She cannot live with us. It's not that we can't live with her.
Are you blaming us? Are you saying that it's our fault that this happened?
No, I'm not blaming black America women. I just said that I'm blaming the system. They are victims of the system like the black male.
Well, why do you say that we are castrating you? You say that you want to be the leaders. Okay, well, what about the black professional woman? Are you saying that there should be no black professional woman? Are you trying to deny black women the right to be creative, the right to function?
We're not asking for you to take a back seat. We're saying that you have got to be astute enough and can view the situation well enough where you just automatically know what your role is and step back. And whenever you want to have that aggressive thing, this is the thing that the young black man today is not going to tolerate.
So that was from 1968. This is the early podcasts and discussions that were happening. So now let's go to 2025. This was actually from Pop the Balloon. Everybody has their kind of version of it. But this is the modern black woman, and this black woman looks like she could be popped herself.
Who did you vote for in the 2024 election?
2024?
As in last year?
No, I didn't subscribe to politics. I don't subscribe to politics. You know, it's the illusion of choice.
And why'd you pop? That's bullshit.
Damn.
I respect that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Why do you feel that?
It is 2024. We are under a dictatorship, and you are still out of politics at 51. Get out of my face. Thank you.
Well, the bottom line is, if you think that your vote
You
chooses
were
our
born
president,
into a game that you have to play, and if you do not play the game, the rest of us see.
I believe voting is really, really
It's an
important
easy
on
thing
the
to do.
local
You do it
and
and get it done
medicinal
with.
level. Like when you deal with your school systems and the municipality, you can have a lot of power there. But on the federal level, if you think that your vote has anything to do with who's the president of the United States, you just misunderstand the system.
Yeah, I got my bachelor's in criminal justice, a minor in psychology and political science. I studied it. Thank you.
That doesn't matter. It's still the same system, perpetuates the same results.
In modern day times, we're dealing with two different, damn near, well, virtually two different species. Even though we are the same species, but black men and black women operate on a species differentiation, or I'm making that word up.
No, that's a real word.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Look at that. I haven't been in school not so long. Logic, I feel so sorry for these young guys, man, because these guys are dealing with, and you can even argue the women too, but black women want to be, I don't know what they want to be anymore. At first, I thought they wanted to be black men at one point. They want to be independent.
That's just, you're obsessed with Leslie Jones.
Yeah, but but I don't. There's a beautiful woman who calls to our channel, my channel, and she says, well, black women don't respect black men because they lost. I agree with her to a degree, but why do Indian women respect Indian men? Why do Arab women respect Arab men? They lost too. You know, you could argue most men on the planet lost to a certain degree to, I guess, the white man. But why do they women respect them to a degree? From what I've seen, I could be wrong. One of the problems, Logic, with a lot of the black women in modern days is us. It's black men. We simp a lot. We simp. A black woman could walk around half naked. You as a black man, you'll be scolded for saying you look like a whore. Put on some clothes. Quit talking with men are talking. So, you know, there's a dynamic of social behavior that is not, it's not respected nor understood amongst black people. And I'm not even just talking about relationships either, bro. Sir says they want to be white women and be able to choose between Brad or Tyrone. I disagree with that too, bro. I disagree with that too, but I think that there's a dynamic that is lost on all factors. Logic, for example, many years ago, there was a boy that was deleted in my city. His name was Tamir Rice. And I went to this not parade, but I went to this event, and there was this big fat black woman. She had to be like 400 pounds, bro. And if this happened yesterday, it happened an hour ago. She said, "We out here marching for y'all." It's a fat cow. And I'm thinking to myself, what gave her the gumption to say that to men?
Yeah.
And it's because there's something that is broken amongst blacks. The fact that here goes a woman who's pretty much, you know, diabetes, something, heart disease. This woman is going to be the D word in a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But She's looking at able-bodied men thinking she's stronger and better than able-bodied men. I didn't correct her, and I should have. And other men didn't correct her. And I think that was one of the biggest problems, man. So when you ask me this question about the dynamic between men and women, it runs deeper than just relationships. It's everything. It's even interactions like that. Because we failed to check the disrespect right then and there. I should have checked her back then. I should have said, bitch, you're 3 times the weight of me. You ain't marching for me, bitch. I could run 20 miles right now. And at that time, I was an actual marathon runner. So it's deep, bro. It's really deep, man.
It seems like things are either the same or the worse, but what did you notice about the tone, the interaction? What's your thoughts?
Popping that balloon was one of the best things that ever happened to that guy. Okay. That was one of the best things that ever happened to that guy. One vestige that comes out of slavery that I think is very real is the way in which black women, some, have been programmed to view black men. Think about this. Let's say you were married or with a woman as a male slave. You could have your whole life disrupted. They could come in, sell your kids, hell, sell you off to some other plantation. I think that did something to the psyche of black folk early on, because the man was not allowed to be the same type of provider and protector that, somebody who wasn't a slave was able to be. For the life of me, and I can't prove it, I'm no sociologist, but I think there's a kernel of that, especially if you keep playing up. All we do is talk about race in this country. Eric Holder, he said early in Obama's first term, he said, we need to have a national conversation about race. And I'm like, dude, that's all the fuck we talk about is race. We're always having a national conversation about race. So the more that's injected into the fabric of the country, I think that's a little bit of it. It's still present in the relationship between black men and black women. If I were in a dating game today, I swear to you, you know what I'd probably do? I'd probably head north and find an Inuit woman, like an Eskimo, okay, who's like outside of society, and not really, it doesn't really have a lot of the programming acting on her, Well,
that's why you got the passport bros, right?
Well, you got to be careful with that, because a lot of these passport bros go over to places like the Philippines and they really get in trouble, okay? Because you should watch some of these videos where these guys go over to the Philippines and they fall into these traps, and when she's finished bleeding him dry financially, discards him. A lot of that going on in the Philippines. So this is what I'm saying, guys. If you passport bros out there, head up to one of the Inuit villages in northern Canada, where they don't get television signals or internet connectivity, and maybe you might have something there.
Gippy, what did you see in that clip, man? Because kind of comparing 1968 to 60 years later to 2025.
It sounded the same. That meme from The Office? Can you tell me the difference between this thing and the other? And they're the same thing. It's the same argument. You all been having the exact same conversation. One was more polite than the other, but I don't think that if you did the balloon game in the 60s, you would have had a more polite result than the version you got in 2025. Black men have been saying it's black women's fault or it's the system's fault and it's a victim. Black women have been saying you don't respect us as professionals and intellectuals and independents. Black men respond that you need to understand that there's still an order to things. Black women say, and on, and both videos represented that. It was the exact same thing. You guys haven't made any traction in 70 years.
It's interesting you bring that up, because, and to something Tyrone was saying, because even after slavery, there were more intact families, right? In the famous Moynihan report talked about there's a warning in what I think like early 1920s.
This argument, I hear it every day, and no disrespect. I say this with the utmost respect to the three of you as friends and coworkers and all of it, but you all sound the fucking same over and over ad nauseum since that 60s video is clear. I thought it was modern. Up until you showed me that video, I thought there may be a difference. I was open-minded looking, but that is the dude said the exact same shit in that first video. Every single dude up to and including last night's episode say on CT's panel when they talk to black women. Everything you heard that black women represent in both videos, every single day. So again, as an outsider with no horse in this race, this is your community and your job to deal with, honestly, as the men of that community. You haven't moved the needle, not even a millimeter.
I think this is another example of how volume can be mistaken for an abundance of something. Okay, so we live in this society where, you know, loud voices get a lot of attention, but every black male I know is either married or in a committed relationship.
Yeah.
So what we see and hear in terms of the volume, like the woman that popped the balloon, she it was interesting because she made it a point to she had to get in there that she had a college degree. She looking for a way to get that in there. And the funny thing about it was she was wrong. The guy was right in terms of, now I don't know if this is where he was going, but the reality is, the fact is, the Electoral College elects the president at that level.
Yep.
Okay. So essentially he was right, but in her disdain for him, in her hatred for probably men in general, not just black men. Okay. Can you imagine how miserable she is and how she would broadcast that on to somebody? So Gimpy, I don't see that in the real world relationships between black men and black women.
Your anecdotal experience doesn't even address what my comment is. And I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I'm not even getting, other than he opened the door to her presenting herself with the smarty arty, I got a college degree response by saying, you don't know nothing, right? Like he engages in negative. I'm just pointing that out for that interact, but you're not addressing what I'm saying. That same state existed in the 60s in the first clip. There were
among some black men,
and all that existed. No, what I am saying is, the general discussion of what we're talking about, compare clip A to clip B and tell me if there's a difference. There is no difference. There is none. It's
well, we disagree. We disagree because the
arguments in the 60s, the same arguments, women aren't letting black men lead. Women feel that, again, what I said earlier, in the 2025, it's just a representation of the same argument playing out on a balloon popping dating show.
The first guy at the little dating game, he wasn't pressed. I mean, he was like, yeah, okay, you popped the balloon. I'm still going to espouse my opinion. You introduced the word anecdotal to describe my experience, and you're right. But you can't then categorize my experience as anecdotal without then also characterizing the two clips that you saw as
anecdotal. It is very clear and apparent that that cycle is alive and well in 2025, that it clearly existed in 1960, whatever. And it has not changed. The metric, the needle, none of it. They have the same.
When you say none, that's my issue. When you say none, because now you're getting into absolutes, and you were right.
Well, I mean, so to be fair,
right.
the metrics have changed. I mean, you talk about the out of wedlock birth rate.
That's up for every demographic.
No, but when we talk particularly about the black community, I mean, back then, even though it was high then, 50%. Up at this point, it's at 77% out of wedlock birth. You know, men and women aren't getting together. Some disagreement there. So there's some breakdown of the family unit that has, deep-seated issues. Now, my opinion is, again, this is a result of communist influence, where one of the aims is to discredit the family as an institution. And again, Manning Johnson talked about this, about breaking the families up, and the massive welfare state, which took men out of the homes, inspired a lot of black women in particular to go get jobs or be in the industry or basically take care of themselves, because the men aren't going to be around. And I think a bit of that has played out. Now, that's just my observation, but it's just kind of interesting to see, to me, 1968, because what I see in that conversation, there was more respectability when it comes to allowing each other to talk. They disagreed, but the whole interaction So we were still kind of early in the debate, or the enmity, so to speak. Now, even the Bible said there's always going to be enmity between man and woman. You know, when we see that now playing out in 2025, it's like there's just a complete disdain and a hatred coming towards the black man.
Well,
I will have to disagree
society
with your-
society in general has become less genteel as the decades have gone on.
I am going to go with Tyrone on this. With what he's saying is you're doing an apples to oranges comparison. You're taking a news segment that was contextually set up to be an exchange of information on an intellectual level, right? These people were there to talk, to share these ideas. They weren't looking for a fight. It was being moderated to be a conversation. Look at how the guy backtracked to try and reword that it's systemic after he got caught right away saying that it's women up front.
So was that him being a simp, CT?
No.
If he would have corrected her then, butterfly effect, who knows what would have happened to them?
Yeah, but what happening in 2025 is a dating show. They're contextually encouraged to be confrontational.
All right, guys. Michael Dell made a big donation, a $6.25 billion donation, and particularly to the Trump accounts. Here's Donald Trump talking about it. Here we go.
Trump accounts will be the first, I guess you could say, real trust funds for every American child, allowing family members, employers, corporations, generous donors to contribute money that will be invested and grow over the course of a child's life to be used for their benefit after they turn 18. So in other words, these are children that are going to, an investment's going to be made. That investment's going to continue to grow, we hope, right? We hope. And, but it will. And they'll feel like Michael Dell someday. But at 18, they'll have a lot of money, a lot more money than they would have had, and potentially a lot of money. But these accounts will track the overall stock market and will be 100% private property controlled by the child's guardians. In honor of America's 250th anniversary, the Dells are announcing today that they are giving 25 million American children $250 each to save and to invest in their personal Trump account. Now, that's the equivalent of $6.25 billion. In other words, to put it succinctly, Michael and Susan are giving $6.25 billion in total, and as a total contribution. That's big stuff. I don't care who you are. That's big. Come here, give me a hand. And let me have a little of that luck rub off. That's fantastic, Susan. These gifts will be available to the first 25 million children aged 10 and under the zip codes where their median income is $150,000 or less.
It's a bad idea. I'll tell you why. What would you have done with, let's just say, 10 grand at 18? You'd have stimulated the economy. I think we all would have. The likelihood of an 18-year-old actually putting that money to work for them is slim to none. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is happening, and we're going to see more of this. Like, there's a big debate now between, Trump brought it up. And notice the Democrats have not really pushed back hard against the idea of dramatically reducing the income tax. Why is that? Because the income tax is going away. When you look at the amount of jobs that are going to be impacted by AI, there are going to be fewer people paying income taxes. So look for the Supreme Court to sign off on Trump's tariffs, because it's going to be the way America creates income. If you got fewer people working, and that's going to slow down too, because you're going to have fewer people globally purchasing. The other thing is the entitlement programs, Social Security chief among them. That's already broke. So logic, when you get your check at the end of the week, you see that deduction for Social Security. That's not going into any account for you. That's going to pay current recipients of the benefit, right?
Yep.
That is going away too. The Congressional Budget Office has said it's insolvent now, really, but they have said mid 2030. So this, whatever you want to call it, baby bond thing, that's the new Social Security, basically. But they stopped short of really making it that, because for some strange reason they're making it available to 18-year-olds. So it's going to turn into an economic stimulus program 18 years from now.
I was fooled by those words too. For years, without even realizing it, I was helping the bad guys. Yeah, the same global conglomerates that bankroll chaos, push woke nonsense, and fund movements that despise God, family, and freedom. 97% of what we buy, toothpaste, dish soap, vitamins, even snacks, is owned by the same handful of multinational corporations. They don't share our values, they exploit them. Most of their stuff is made overseas, laced with toxins, and sold back to us under the label of progress. That's not capitalism, that's communist goal number 32. Centralized control over culture, welfare, and daily life. They already control education. They control the media. And now they want your shopping cart. If we keep buying their products, we're handing them the keys. Shame isn't the problem. Apathy is. Shame is what snaps you out of it. It's what makes a man take responsibility again. That's why I stopped feeding the machine. I switched my home to family-owned, American-made, non-toxic products that actually care about the people they serve. And now you can too. Go to switchwithlogic.com and take your dollars back from the system that's poisoning our homes and our freedom. Because shame should lead to change. And this one feels good. What behavior does this incentivize?
With my vote, they'll be toasters, so the worst behavior. But I'm going to pretend like I'm you for 10 seconds, and I'll pretend like there's hope that they don't totally botch it. But again, I think you're missing another part of this. There's a giant money laundering scam. For me, I see this as the corporations trying to figure out how they fight back in the public sphere because they're privately funding these things. This is an avenue for private, mega rich people to turn giant chunks of money, which to them is in the bracket of donation level money, right? Because these guys can afford to give $1 billion, 100 million, 2 billion. Because this first guy gives a big chunk, but once it's funded the first time, then you can have many little chunks to keep it funding. And it's just going to become a way that they're going to incentivize the rich to fund the poor so that they can show that capitalism, because it becomes a, if it works in a generation, you have a cornerstone program where all these kids are about to grow up and inherited these funded things that if the market stayed strong, maybe they have $20,000, $30,000 sitting there from something that was given to them by the rich. Right. And it changes the perception that the rich are these evil that don't care. Right. Like that. Again, I'm not saying that it's going to accomplish, but it's a multifaceted approach that Trump's circle came up with clearly to try and shift the narrative, to create a marketing ploy on top of everything else. I see the marketing ploy in it. It's
but
private funded.
Are there going to be regular investments made during the course of the 18 years? Or are they just going to
it adjusts? It's a fund.
Right. What I'm saying is, so each child gets $250 under what he just said.
Right.
$250.
Right.
So it's supposed to start with 1,000, and Michael Dell just added $250.
Yeah, added
per child.
So is there, to your knowledge, is there any provision for like a monthly or semi-annual contribution? Are the parents expected to maybe chip in? Because really, I mean, you could put it in the S&P 500 and let's be conservative and say 8% the whole way through. And with $1,000 initial investment, let's say $1,250 with Dell's, that's not a lot at the end of the day.
But I mean, that is the aim, because he did say these accounts go to their parent or guardian for the child when they turn
over how
18.
It's invested. Yeah.
But as far as decisions over how it's invested, I'm not sure about the ins and outs of that part.
And it's supposed to be a growing, like he alludes to, what I've heard, is that it's supposed to be adapting to the market, right? It's supposed to be this thing that they use to invest for it's targeting maximum growth, right? Like
right, and that's fine. But is there a regular contribution made?
So it's voluntary contributions from corporations and from other entities.
That's what I'm saying. It can be funded. All these kids, right? Like let's say they open 25 million accounts today, right? Now all these kids are 9. At 9, Amazon decides to drop 10 billion into whatever that bucket is. Then everybody's account is supposed to be, it's not just supposed to fund the next round. It's supposed to be dispersed amongst all the accounts in the fund, right? Like at least that's what they're trying to make you think. What it is, we'll see when they give us pen and paper of it, like, but the whole idea is that this is supposed to continuously grow in liquidity. It's supposed to target rapid maximum growth for these kids over 18 years so that they actually have money there.
So Sir L. Sid says parents can invest $5,000 a year in it.
Okay.
We'll see how that.
Okay. What are the tax implications? Is the I guess it'll be taxed at regular income rates when the child turns 18, I suppose.
Now, CT, I want to ask you a different question here pertaining to this, because one of the stipulations in this, though, was that children in certain zip codes would be receiving this benefit, and the zip codes were less than, if there's a median income in that zip code of less than $150,000 a year. Now, would this incentivize some, maybe more wealthy people to kind of gentrify other areas, moving into, less rich areas and pricing other people out? Will this incentivize that type of behavior?
Of
Or
course it would. I mean, wouldn't you do that if you were wealthy?
I mean, it depends. I mean, I personally, I wouldn't be moving back to Baltimore City.
But what if you could move back and you knew that it would be on an upward trajectory?
I mean, I think that's an economic decision at that point.
Yeah.
Whether if I
And
can
it benefits you.
Yeah, it benefit me.
Yeah, I would do it. And you had other people with you who would do it.
I mean, I just thought, because I'm just trying to think through what type of behavior does this incentivize to? Does it incentivize the creation of more families? Does it incentivize more dependency upon the government? I mean, and I think this may be one of those things that where it's a good idea in the classroom, in the boardroom. We talk about that, soldiers.
Yeah.
But then in practicality, what does this actually enable?
Well, I mean, I'm a greedy capitalist, man. I look at things from a very, very Ferengi mindset. I mean, I think gentrification is good. I think that the people there haven't taken the opportunity to make an environment better, and the government and gave you the wealthy person the opportunity to come in there and gentrify the community. Then have at it. I'm just a very simple guy when it comes to these things, man.
Mm-hmm.
Also, don't discount, and you kind of alluded to this logic, is a lot of the countries are doing different programs to incentivize birth rates. Because I personally, we talked about this on the stream earlier, Social Finance stream, but I personally believe, and I'd be interested to see what Gimpy and CT think about this. I think we've reached peak humanity population-wise. I think that 8 billion was the high water mark. And now we elaborate on the reasons for this. You don't need to have as many kids for labor purposes. I mean, it's expensive. Right. Okay, you got abortion, women's lib, a whole lot of factors, right? But at the end of the day, you're seeing different countries like China. They've got some economic incentives to come out and have kids, but they also just instituted a hell of a tax on condoms. So everybody's
trying to get the birth rates up.
Everybody's trying to get the birth rates up. Yeah, because if you look at it from the aggregate, birth rates in the species have been trending downward. It's like we hit a peak and we've been trending downward.
So shout out to Trap Music. He's been responding all night. Creating artificial markets never work. I believe in free markets. Does this create an artificial market?
But but wait a minute. Aren't all markets artificial in the first place? I mean, other than when you get with a central. Wait a minute. Other than the barter system, aren't all markets artificial?
That's not what they mean.
What do they mean?
They mean by creating a market where there's no demand for one to stimulate an actual demand, right? It's not like they're inventing a product that hasn't existed before. That's why there's no demand. They're trying to artificially generate a demand by doing something. That's an artificial market.
Okay, so
like they have to introduce a reason for that demand other than they just want demand. They're creating a market to generate.
Okay, so for example, if the government created, if they were able to, this is sci-fi shit, but if the government was able to make it rain, right?
And then they would charge people.
They would charge for umbrellas.
Yeah,
that's an art. Okay. That's the extreme example that I. Okay, I got it. Okay, so that would be an artificial market. Okay.
They don't mean it the way you're saying it. The way you're saying it discounts that there's an innovation that triggers that demand, right? They're trying to create it without innovation.
Got it.
All right, so we'll see how this turns out. This plays out. I mean, it is part of the one big beautiful bill with this Trump accounts, and now you see the first private company investing in it, 6.25 billion. And I think when you put 6.25 billion in perspective, you hear progressives always talking about, well, why don't we just get rid of the billionaires, or billionaires donate all their money to everyone? You see, just talking about children, 10 million children, 6.25 billion amounts to $250
right
per child. So
that $250. Oh, look, again, over 18 years that they wouldn't have had to start with in the first place. That's funded by a private entity. Right now, imagine it becomes a trend, be it by all these companies through some sort of tax sheltering incentive that they're going to get ultimately out of it to fund this thing, and kids are being given free college, not on the public dollar.
No, look, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. If they want to be generous like that, that's good. I just, again, my biggest issue with it, and again, I really think that it's being set up to be a replacement for Social Security.
How
But
does that
it
work?
how does that work? Well, easy. If you start out, remember these guys. If you do roughly 8%, why 8%? Because the S&P has historically returned between 8 and 10% on average annually. All right, so you take 8%, take 1,250. You put roughly $1 in every year after that. You're coming out at the end of the 18 years at about $5,000. Okay, at the 8%. All right, cool. Not a lot, but more than we started out with when we started in the work world. So now, if you can get that $5,000 in play and start to make regular contributions as an adult and get it going over the course of 30 years, all right, the average career, then maybe at the end of that, you come out looking really, really good. We simply cannot look, we're broke. Okay. So in terms of Social Security, there has to be an answer to, if we're going to keep this quasi-socialist system going, the Social Security Administration, then we have to think outside the box. Now, Bush tried it back when he was president. He came up with, why don't we do the, private accounts? Okay. Quashed. Why? Because again, the money you pay into Social Security right now is not going to you. All right. And they've raided that fund so many times for all kinds of purposes. It's a big Ponzi scheme. That's exactly what it is. So there has to be something, or there has to be nothing. And we just don't have a system whereby older people get this federal subsidy. It's just up to whatever it is you can do with your 401k, insurance policies, and IRA. And how many people are financially savvy enough to make regular contributions to those plans? So the inverse is what you're looking at is a whole lot of homeless ass people at the age of 65 and beyond.
So yeah, like I said, we'll see how this plays out. To me, I do see it kind of as a socialist handout. I don't think it will incentivize the best behavior, but those that will take advantage of it, and those that won't will miss the opportunity, just like with anything else. But overall, I do think it's not sending the right message. Guys, make sure you hit that like button, share, subscribe to the Just the Guys podcast. Remember, we go live on Saturdays at 6:30, and we'll release our condensed podcast version the following Wednesday. Most of us get called coons, maybe not you, Gimpy, as much, but
Ever.
but I saw this news story that came out this week, and maybe, just maybe, this coon's behavior will give us our black card back.
A burglar that broke into a Virginia store was caught by police asleep in the bathroom. It gets even better. That burglar was a raccoon. Now, you're probably wondering how it ended up passed out on the bathroom floor. Here's how. This was a liquor store, and from the looks of things, that raccoon went on a serious bender. According to the police report, the drunk raccoon was taken to a shelter to sober up and get a talking to about its poor life choices before being released on its own recognizance.
Gin and tequila.
Right by the toilet.
And the only thing was missing, was it next door to a KFC?
No. You all are bigots. All of you are bigots. Anyone who laughed at that is a bigot.
That's funny. It's the culture, right? That's what they say, right?
Yeah, do it for the culture. I mean, that coon, he representing well. He robbed the store, got the Henny, passed out next to the toilet.
Out, yeah.
In the store. Best robber ever.
Man, CT, man, you getting your black card back because of that?
This whole thing about a black card, right? Many years, I had a moderator on my channel. I don't know what happened to her. Her name is Nina, a Dominican girl. Probably has a trace of black blood. But somebody said she was critiquing the black community, right? And with her being more adjacent to the Latin hemisphere or Latin people, somebody said, "You're not invited to the cookout." She said, "I don't give a goddamn about going to the cookout. I don't care about that."
Good for her.
This whole thing with a black card, does the black card, can I get a loan with the black card? Can I get a job with this black card? What is this thing about a black card? And I think this should be like a topic later on. This black card means what, right? What does it really mean? When I used to go get cars, I didn't rely on the black card to finance the car. So I look at this story as a funny, silly story, man. But the whole black card thing is really a deep deep thing to me.
Oh, that triggers you, huh? But man, some cool to hang out with. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that coon right there, you can go grab a beer with.
Well, apparently, yeah.
You know, speaking of raccoons, they have opposable fingers. By the way, they have opposable. It's really weird. Like it's really strange almost.
Dude, did you hear that just recently they found raccoons with shorter noses? So they're saying they're becoming domesticated.
Ooh,
I didn't hear that.
that is really weird. Yeah,
Dude, raccoons.
I caught a
are
raccoon
super
once.
smart.
so you think they're evolving, huh?
Well,
Yes. Science does.
did you guys hear about the carnivorous squirrels?
Yeah, in California. Yep.
Yep.
I thought there was some in North Carolina too.
Maybe, but yeah,
Because there at least there was that one time where there was some like angry squirrels, and it was on the news a while ago. That they were attacking people.
Wow.
And I remember one time.
Human beings. Oh wow.
Yeah, they were attacking people. And there was one time I remember I was driving back from South Carolina, and I was at a rest stop. I think I was in North Carolina when I was at the rest stop, and there was a squirrel. My daughter had got out the car, and there was a squirrel just kind of like standing there,
Oh shit.
not moving, like not move, like just like looking at her, and like it scared her. Like it really scared her. I had to go kick the squirrel. There was a story that came out in two stories actually came out of Baltimore. One, they're launching in Baltimore City. Waymo, if you're familiar with them, technology company based in California. They are bringing their self-driving taxis to Baltimore.
Nope.
They won't last.
Why?
They're gonna get stolen.
Yeah, they get
What are you
stolen.
talking about? Driverless cars in Baltimore?
Yeah.
Are you insane? Like, I'm sorry. This is in LA. Dude, cars get stolen by the boatload in Baltimore.
So
And you-
initially, they are going to be manned, right? They're manned first with the cars, and then they're going to be manned, but just the operator is going to be there while the car is driving around, with the future plans for it to be fully autonomous, right? And I brought that up because I wanted to contrast that with this story that also came out this week. Now, shout out to the Baltimore Sun and the reporters that actually did this, because I'm not sure if you guys remember, but over the summer there was a mass overdose, and that was the first of 3 mass overdoses in Baltimore City in an area called Penn North. And there were several Baltimore Sun reporters that actually went out to Penn North and got some interviews from on the street. And the title of this one is "I Hate Myself. I Got to Get Out of Here. Life Seeking Drugs in Penn North." And I encourage everyone, I'll link to it, but I encourage everyone to read through this article. But basically, it chronicles 3 different people who talk about their experience with the mass overdose. Now, they didn't OD themselves, but just kind of getting into the culture. But the point about this is you see Baltimore, which is pretty labeled a progressive city, pretty far left leaning. They're presenting their progress as a way, oh man, we're getting autonomous vehicles. Meanwhile, this culture of drugs and getting high is like prevalent. So I guess my question is, do progressives have to, I guess, kind of cover up what's going on by showing some level of progress while this kind of like this rotten core exists, or like what's going on here? Like, what do you guys see?
I think what we're having an issue with is we thought that, especially folk like myself and Gimpy, JT out there who are familiar with the utopian sci-fi universe of Star Trek, for example. So when we're watching, we're debating, we did talk about Ketracel White, which they were addicted to. But we think that the future is going to be sanitary, and by the time we get driverless cars, we will be beyond all of these other things. But in reality, you're gonna have the driverless car riding past Penn North, okay, and those 2 things are going to coexist. As a species, think about it. Our technology has far outrun our advancement in terms of the human condition. So we can do all kinds of wonderful technical things, and that's great. But at the same time, at the base level, we're still just the same beings that were living in caves, a few thousand years ago. So, I mean, you take away all the accoutrements, okay? You take away the ability to go to Starbucks or Wegmans or Whole Foods. You turn out the lights for a while, and we will revert back to a survival instinct. So we got to be careful about elevating the species in terms of our level of enlightenment. I don't think it's there. So yeah, we're gonna have drug overdoses. We're gonna have senators out there being proponents of drug pushers. We're seeing that now with Trump blowing up the boats, and Chris Van Hollen, who's a senator from Maryland. I don't even think he knows where the hell Penn North is, but he can go on and on about the due process rights of people bringing fentanyl in the country. So we're an effed up species that just happens to have a pretty decent mastery of mathematics and physics that brings us wonderful technologies.
You have hope where there is no hope. You want a solution to problems people aren't interested in solving. They're interested in pretending like they care about them so that they can virtue signal on their information exchange program. No one really wants to solve anything, because if they did, 99% of the rhetoric you get online to your online comment, dude, all we have done is enhance the ability to lie to each other. There's no arbiter of truth, because that Men in Black line is the most true line in a movie ever, is that people are stupid and scared. So you're looking at a world where you think that one day there's a happy ending. That happy ending comes in the next life, buddy.
Right.
That's why having God in your life is so important. Because if you're looking for utopia on earth, sir, you will be disappointed every single time.
Like I'm very clear on, there has to be some. Every man has to look within himself, right? That's just how it is. But also, I think one of our calls as people of faith, as man of faith, is to be an example, be a light, and share and witness and be an example of God's love on earth. And that oftentimes comes through fellowship and conversation and discuss and discourse and exchange of ideas. I can't change anybody, and I'd say that over and over again. So I guess the question is, how can we say something is doing good when all of these things are
Because it's a
happening?
sum total. It's not a net zero game. It's a sum total. You can have a city that has some drug problem in it, but it's still considered a good city, and it could include technological.
All right, let me be clear. This isn't just some drug problem, though. Like this
Again,
this was a mad. Like I understand. Like you're going to always have the undercurrent or underbelly of society. You're going to have that. Like there's going to be people doing different things. However, from a city to claim that it's thriving, right? This right here is the norm. You have criminals running the street. You have mass overdoses, and at the same time, the city wants to label itself as this is a progressive utopia. And I get what you're saying.
No, here, this is a demonstration of it, because again, who cares what the city wants to label itself?
I don't care.
Why? Everybody who looks at it knows they're lying. That's like the guy who runs around saying, I'm Abraham.
Everybody who looks at it doesn't know they're lying.
Only the other crazies,
Okay.
Only the other people who are already accepting confirmation bias from the people claiming that it's thriving, because they only want to believe those people to begin with. They're not going to listen to you or I, who are pointing out that how can you say you're doing well with autonomous cars when you have 30 people dropping dead at a single event 3 times in a row in the same location?
And let me jump in real quick. Also, there has to be this realization that everything is not legislatable. Okay. So you and I, Logic, had the discussion earlier in the week about essentially an element of that conversation was how deeply should a government be involved in the economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got people out there acting upon their own free will, like Richard Vatch, Professor Vatch.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
He always says his signature issue is fatherless homes. And while I agree that is an issue, I have push back on some of his rhetoric by saying, but there's nothing legislatable that can really be done about that. That's an aspect of human behavior. So you've got, you guys remember the Jarvik 7? The Jarvik 7 was the first artificial heart created in 1982. Okay. This was like amazing. right? An artificial heart, self-contained. But then 82, what else was going on? We're in the heart of the Cold War. Mutually assured destruction. Okay, nukes pointed at everywhere.
Crack epidemics.
Right. So what you have to do, I think, Logic, is you have to first, we have to say, government is good at creating problems. How many problems does government really solve, right? Because they've gone far beyond their purview. Government is supposed to do a couple of things: roads, bridges to facilitate commerce, defense against the barbarians at the gate. Now we got these guys looking at, do you trust Jasmine Crockett to come up with a policy to fix drug addiction? You know what I mean? Right. So we'll have these, we must have these technological advancements and these other things that are going on. You got to compartmentalize. So in certain aspects of our society, certain things are going very well. In others, things are going very, very poorly. And that's been the way of the world since Cain versus Abel.
This is why I call you a purist. You think there's a net sum to achieve in your time in the mortal realm. It's not. If you're a true believer, you understand. Again, I'm not judging anybody. I don't say that from this place, but I'm saying it from a sense of intellectual honesty. If you're a true believer in your faith, then you know everything in this realm is a test for the next life to be measured of your values. Of course, there has to be bad times. Of course, there has to be awful, because that's the test. The test is it's never going to be perfect. In fact, the way the universe seems to be wired, the minute we'd have a utopia, society would collapse, because humanity is wired to prevent itself from living like that. It is. We have ambition. We want more than we had today, definitely more than we had yesterday, by a natural instinct. It exists in the whole primate genome. You see it with apes. You see it with all the great apes. That this sense that it's not enough. They move, they migrate, and the further up the chain. And I'm just trying to blend science and religion here for this, but purely from a religious state. The whole point is that the rules prevent it. It is supposed to continuously be a test. How is utopia a test? Utopia is a servitude, because you can only behave one way in the utopia. There's no free will there. Utopia only works as if every single human all the time is on board.
And thus abdicates their natural free will, their ambition.
Invasion. It has to be governed. It has to be organized. It has to be controlled. It has to be centralized. Humanity isn't wired like that. We're wired to be individuals who desire other individuals. We call them tribes. Like we behave in a very, I'm sorry, that's why. When someone says, how can there be sorrow in the world? How can, when you hear the atheist, because otherwise, what am I here for? The whole purpose God told me I'm here for is to be tested. Every religion believes that same single fact, is that this realm is only limited for your eternity to come after it. So you're never going to have a street corner, not have a street corner that's a drug spot in every city on earth for all history, unless you're going to enforce it with force. You know what I mean?
And one thing in particular about
you're not getting, or Stalin, or these places that like Thailand, where you go 20 years in jail for littering.
Right.
You have to, it's either you forcibly make humans comply, or they come together because they reach a consensus. There's never going to be a time where it just happens naturally that everyone agrees.
And we talk about these things because they are of interest, but one thing I can assure you, you take Baltimore, okay? And you could probably say this about any other city. I'm taking Baltimore because that's where I was born and raised. I have seen Baltimore over the course of 5 decades, over 5 decades, get progressively worse. It's entropy in politics. Things move from orderly to disorderly. Okay, entropy is a law of the universe, and you see entropy at work in political systems. That's why the Roman Empire no longer exists, because entropy, made it disordered over time. Baltimore, there is no saving Baltimore, and I'm sure someone in Detroit could say the same thing. Will it evolve into something else? It's doing that in a way. One of the reasons why they're crowing about a lower homicide rate is because a lot of the problem has metastasized out into the adjoining counties. Okay, right. So the blight, the despair, as Gimpy kind of hinted at, that is something that is required to maintain in order for certain people to remain in power and to remain in wealth. don't be Ahab. Don't be Don Quixote, tilting at windmills. You know, you're not right. Right. The situation. If I had $1 for every time I heard, "Oh, Baltimore's coming back," that line was trotted out in order to sell a block full of houses, and then it turned to shit right after everybody bought. Okay, and now the whole damn block is rented out and some board ups. You know that in Baltimore, it's the entropy effect. It moves from order to disorder.
And you can expand that to the whole country. You cannot exist in a world where everyone thinks that their rationale is the only rationale that has a right to exist. And we live in a society right now where everyone believes that it's supposed to be perfect, and it's supposed to be perfect how they envision it because they're the keeper of the truth. That's what we've created today. So we should forget about our cities, our towns, any of that. The whole country is teetering on that brink because everyone, if you listen to people, even right-wing people want revolution. I'm sorry, like when you look at what's going on now, of course we're going to tout the technological because that's our way. We're only going to look at the shiny thing in the front because if we look at all the bad, if we have to, dude, this country is a festering tinderbox at the moment with competing ideologies and a lot of unhappy people who think they're due something across the spectrum and all demographics, man. So like I'm sorry, every city's going to say it's technologically advanced the day it gets driverless cars, and every city's going to have Penn North.
Now will these cars be sold for crack?
Dude, these cars will be up on blocks as the first week they're driverless with no attendant and it's just customers. They will all be up on cinder blocks with no parts. Dude, how are they supposed to get, unless they're getting real-time feed of the cameras, if any of it's local data storage, it won't be there to retrieve. They're going to strip those cars down to nothing in some parts of Baltimore as they pass through with no one in them. What are you talking about, dude? You know the neighborhoods I'm talking about, bro. And you know people have to drive through them in their taxi rides to get from one good neighborhood to another. And you're telling me when it drives back empty, that shit ain't going to just get guys stand in the road, force it to stop, 5 guys put it up on blocks, and everything is gone in 10 minutes.
What do you think the taxi will do when it's being carjacked, though?
But see, Logic, here's the thing. If you or I or Gimpy, if we happen to find ourselves so unfortunate as to be headed east on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, if we feel something just ain't right, we can run the red light, right?
Yeah.
The Waymo car is not going to do that.
Some they'll pay the crackhead. Yo, you want that crack? Go stand in the middle of the street. The Waymo's coming. It'll stop. Don't worry.
Right.
Stand there, and then on just boop 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 up on the blocks, and then it'll spin, and it's not going anywhere.
How long before they program it to just keep driving?
Hitting the crackhead.
They'll never do it.
I hope it's reprogrammed to hit the crackhead.
They'll never do it.
Dude, I'm a firm believer that we either have to take a decisive stand to preserve our reality, or we're just going to let it crumble through our fingers as we all cry about it. I'm not saying the men here aren't taking stands in their own unique ways. I'm just saying, as a society, everybody is screaming for a revolution, dude. Everyone.
They had to take those cars out of. They suspended the service in Los Angeles because they were being vandalized.
Yes, all the time. Oh yeah, dude. That's what I'm saying. Baltimore is not as polite as Los Angeles.
So LJ says that the vehicles are designed to prevent theft, often locking doors, driving to safety, or alerting authorities, making true successful carjacking.
Baltimore, they will get it up on the cinder block. They'll make it stop for a crackhead, get it up on cinder block so it can't go anywhere. And like a Tiger pit crew at the F1, at the Formula One, they're gonna all the tires will be gone. It's not driving off to safety. Again, this is not LA. This is not where people are everywhere. You can go through whole sections of bad Baltimore, and it's just people that will do this shit that you're passing by, or people who will just walk past it like it's not happening. I'm sorry. Like, people do not know what Baltimore is. The Wire is like a parody of it.
So, because this is what will happen, right? Waymo car will go to
drugs in the Waymo cars in Baltimore and arrest the driverless drivers. Okay, like this is Baltimore, man.
It'll go, where the squeegee kids stand at when you get off 83 and you hit North Avenue. Okay, yeah. So when the Waymo car stops right there, it will be polite. It will say something like, "I am sorry, I have no money," and they'll just vandalize the car. Okay, what you need is an Ed 209 infused AI in the Waymo car. Remember what Ed 209 did?
You have 10 seconds to comply.
Right. Yeah, you need some enforcement droid technology in these robots. Otherwise, they're not going to make it in these inner cities.
Dude, they're not. I'm sorry. Baltimore is not the testing ground. I mean, this is more to your theory that Baltimore is the testing ground for all the progressive nonsense. But dude, they're going to learn the hard way this summer.
And if
Well,
you're
it's funny
serious,
because Lime, you know, Lime scooters, Lime, and what's the other
Yeah.
one from Uber? Bird.
Yeah.
And there was another one, Spin, I think. So a couple of them left.
Of course,
Yeah.
they got stolen and vandalized and shit.
And scrapped.
Yeah.
For metal. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, people do not we live in the Judge Dredd timeline, folks, not the Star Trek timeline. There's no Zephram Cochrane. Not to ruin yours and CT's dream, Tyrone, but there's no Zephram Cochrane coming and developing warp drive after the Third World War. No, dude, we're gonna get mega cities and instant justice on the streets if we're not careful. That's just what's
another thing is, the Waymo cars do have a system that'll contact the police, right? But that is presupposing you have a police force that gives a shit about a Waymo car. Okay.
Well, they will first because Waymo will pay the city hall somehow to make sure
that'll quickly wear off.
It doesn't even matter because as soon as they figure out how they contact the cops, they'll find a way to block it.
Possibly. Yeah, and I mean it's not that people care.
If they use anything like Bluetooth or a cell signal or any of that, the same way they jack phones in Baltimore, they'll use the same exact tool to block the car from sending a signal. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's possible, but the Waymo car calling for help is going to get about the same amount of attention as a human being calling for help.
What's funny, Waymo vehicles have been pulled over by police in California and Arizona for traffic violations like illegal U-turns or erratic driving. So, fair warning, there are no rules for driving in Baltimore City.
Yes.
You can literally do whatever you want.
Right.
Drive where you want. So this may be the perfect place for them to test it out. Even further, do further development because the only thing you can't do in Baltimore City now is drive in a bus lane.
Right, they'll get you for that. Now,
I do have an open invitation to the show, to the panel, again because I learned a lot from last week's discussion. I do have an open invitation to any communist, any socialist advocate that wants to come on and discuss his or her point of views. Because I like I said, I'm just curious, and I think it makes for great content. Just like CT said earlier, to have men to have a discussion. So I do think there's some value in that. But yeah,
don't mute me.
Yeah, so yeah, we are going to come out with some shirts, some T-shirts. Don't mute me, bro. I'm gonna have Tyrone's face on there. I'm gonna get that stenciled. So if you mute me, I'm out.
Oh yeah, the front is don't mute me, bro. Don't mute me, and then the back is if you mute me, I'm out. That's perfect.
Yeah, so I'm gonna design some shirts to make that happen, and we'll get it going.